Welcome to Future Predictions for Education and Technology 50 years from now. I am Patricia Tarleton and I will be your host for this presentation. What prompts change? Crisis can prompt change. After a crisis, we change things in an attempt to avoid the crisis from happening in the future, much like we saw after the attacks of 9/11. Change also happens when we see a performance gap. We do what we can to compensate and correct the performance gap. New technology also prompts change through disruptive innovations. Sounds like a bad thing. Disruptive innovations was coined by Clayton Christensen, a Harvard professor. He states that disruptive innovations transforms a product that historically was so expensive and complicated that only few could use. Disruptive innovations make the innovation more affordable and accessible so larger population has access. He notes the mainframe computers were originally very large and expensive. These mainframe computers required lots of training to operate. The disruptive innovation was the personal computer, which was easier to use and much less expensive. Laptops and personal cell phones disrupted the personal computer. We no longer need a personal computer with the invention of smaller and less expensive technology. With the use of laptops and readily available Wi-Fi, this has disrupted mail, advertisements, and bill paying with online banking, shopping, and email. Disruptive innovations are a good thing. They allow most to have access to the technology at a reasonable price, which is prompting changes around us, and especially in education. Education was designed over 100 years ago in order to prepare students for factory, farm, or college. Over the last 50 years, classrooms have begun to change. We have moved from classrooms with desks lined up in rows to desks in small groups to allow for collaboration with peers. Students are often taking notes with pencil and paper. Disruptive innovations are causing change in the classroom. Readily accessible internet in the classroom has given the opportunity for students to bring their own devices and collaborate beyond the classroom walls. This has also allowed for online courses and flipped classrooms. I was recently talking with my mom, who was telling me about her online quilting class she had taken. She was so excited to have been able to find an online class. She paid for the class as she normally would, except this time, instead of being in a group where she would sometimes miss a step or not understand a step, she now had the option to stop the recorded lesson and rewind it immediately until she understood. She expressed how much better this was for her, since she usually works slower than the rest of the class and falls behind. I thought to myself, what a great way to differentiate the lesson. Often, the challenge is getting teachers to explore these options or the lack of available technology.
Education in 2067 will be much different than we are familiar with. There will be no brick and mortar buildings where people gather to learn. Education and learning will meet you literally where you are. You are sitting on the beach and wish to learn about the deep blue sea. The thought of learning will summons the video image of the lesson. If you prefer, you can mentally summons a holographic of a teacher who will appear and teach you the lesson. Your embedded chip will hold all the information that you want to learn. If there is something that you struggle with to understand, you'll be able to rewind it in your mind and watch it again and again. The need to write things down will become obsolete. Everything will be stored in your installed chip. Your chip will recognize when you no longer need the certain information stored and remove it from your chip to make room for new information. Things will be much different in 2067. We have the whole world in our hands.
Disruptive innovations causing changes in 2067 will be the implanted chip, communicating through our thoughts, and holograms and classes held wherever you are, including this picturesque beach. Education and learning will meet you literally where you are, where you will have the ability to rewind and watch until you understand. In 2067, we have the whole world in our hands.